Good afternoon, happy Sunday, everybody, and Merry Christmas, and welcome to a very special edition of Coach's Corner with Jeff Davenport, brought to you by the Morse Automotive Group in Sierra Vista. Sierra Vista and all of Cochise County is backed by Morse. Today, I am joined by a man who is almost invisible because the green shirt he's wearing against a green screen, but he said, no, it doesn't matter. I'm going to wear the only blue University of Oregon Ducks shirt on the face of the planet and the only blue Oregon Ducks hat on the face of the planet. Right. He is an extremely familiar face who I have had the pleasure of joining before every Buena game for a live stream the past 4 years to talk about the pregame setup for every matchup that they've been facing. He's the man who has led Buena football for 11 years, created a perennial contender in the 5A Southern, then changed to Sonoran, and his tenure is literally bested by only the legendary Buena football coach Truman Williamson. But this man right here is a legend himself. He's taking time out of his busy weekend. His holiday is coming up to talk to me today about this new direction, a new undertaking that will be happening in his life. Everybody leave some love in the live chat for the one, the only head coach, Joe Thomas. Coach, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for joining me today. Taking time out of your day to do this. Why don't we just rip the Band-Aid off first before we get into the history of this and talk about the big news. You recently came to a decision about your future at Buena High School, and I want to talk to you about what led to that decision, all the next steps that are in place, take a look at the history, your legacy at Buena High School. But what is the big headline that we're looking at here today?
Yeah, on the 17th, I resigned from head football coach at Buena High School. And then pending board approval here in January, I'm recommended as the next head coach for Casa Grande Union High School up in Casa Grande. So that's the news. That's the news.
That is the headline. Yeah. And before we talk about, and that's huge news, and we're so excited for you and what this means for you, your family, your future. And before we talk about Casa Grande, the future that's there, what I want to do with this kind of podcast style interview is just talk about everything that's led up to this, and especially on the coaching side, obviously, because it's Coach's Corner. And so after taking Buena to the playoffs, I guess, well, maybe we can look at it this way. After taking Buena to the playoffs for the last 6 years, obviously over the course of the recent years, you've probably had opportunities to leave and head in other places. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, of course, when you start changing a culture and you start doing some things that are successful, other teams want that. I have a lot of coaching buddies and, who are head coaches, and, so head coaching positions opened up, assistant coaching positions opened up. Hey, if you're ever up this way, let me know. But there was no reason to leave. My son Jaden, who's a senior this year, he wanted to stay down here with me and wanted to go attend Buena, and that's where he's going to graduate, and that's where we're at. So there was no, reason in trying to go or leave or anything like that. And then now that he's graduating, now you can kind of open up some doors for some other things. And the way things worked themselves out, that's why we're in the position where we're in right now.
So pretty much that's the answer to why now.
Yeah, why now? Yep. He started at Buena, Jaden. He's going to finish at Buena. That was our conversation. We're not going to bounce you around schools. We're not going to switch you out schools. It's good or bad. And obviously his career at Buena High School has been very good. His freshman year, he hasn't had a losing season in 4 years, and he made the playoff 3 of those years. Not too many high school guys can say that they did that. No. So a lot of times I'm old, and it's about my kids. It's their, I have my story. This is their story, and so I definitely don't want to make sure I don't want to make any decisions that's going to affect their story. And so he's graduating from Buena in May. I have 2 kids that live up in the Chandler, Queen Creek area up there. My daughter's going to be a senior next year, and she's kind of been taking backseat to Jaden because he lives here with me, coaching track and football and stuff like that. I have a son, Trevor. He's going to be 8th grade next year, so he's kind of taking the backseat too. You guys see him on the sidelines all the time at the games and stuff. So just now I have that opportunity to, in my eyes, be a better dad. Because it's getting closer to my kids. They don't have to come down here now. If they decided that they wanted to come down here then there would be no departure from me. But, they're enrolled in school up there and they have their friends and they got some things going on up there. So that's, again, I don't want to interrupt that. So I'm making the move up there. I don't look at it as a sacrifice. I look at it as doing what any dad would do to be closer to their kids, and when you take it that way, it's, that was the biggest factor. And, when some opportunities arise, you can't sit back because this same opportunity might not happen next year, and there's things that you can't take back. And so having this opportunity to be close to my kids is the move. And it hurts, right? Because I love Buena, I love Buena. Again, there's the administration here, the community here, just all the support that we've had, the players. Long line of coaches. I got Giovanni Bourbon text me the other day, and he's my guy. I love him. He texts me and we talk and stuff like that still. And there's just impact. I had a kid message me, and he wants to, he's applying for a job. Can you use me as a reference? So it's just the long-lasting impact that you have on these kids and the community. My parents are still here. The church is right there. So it's not as easy to leave as things are going, because it is tough and it is hurtful. But my daughter has one more year of high school. My youngest, he'll have 4 years of high school, and then after that, who knows where the road's going to take me. But
and your time at Buena technically is not done yet.
You'll
be here through the. Let's talk about that part as well, because you're going to be here through the end of the school year.
Yeah. There was the opportunity to leave over Christmas break and not return back to Buena and be at the other school in January. But I'm going to finish the run. I'm finishing the course, track. Well, number one, Jaden's graduating in May, so we're not going to leave in January to go to any other school. He's graduating here, and I'm excited for that. Number one, finishing out my contract, Buena's been good to me. There's nothing. I'm not trying to do them any type of way. Buena's been good to me, and then coaching track, man. We got a good group of kids coming back. We're excited about it. I love track. Even the football players that I'm not returning back to next year, I talk to them, hey, come out for track. Let's get faster. Let's get better. They know that. We're going to coach them up, have fun. They're going to get faster. They're going to win. So there's good things that are still going to happen, within the next 6 months, and we're excited about that. So I'm real excited.
You should be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to look forward to, even in the next semester. Your final semester of your contract at Buena High School. So you've faced Casa Grande many times over the past decade.
Yeah.
What is your familiarity with that program and the school's history?
Well, and that was kind of one of the reasons. I think the interview went so well. Because I didn't necessarily have to sell myself at that point. They weren't unfamiliar to me because we put a good product on the field against them. We played them this past year, 49-33 win. Last year we played them in the regular season. We beat them 60-something, 40-something. Then we played them again in the playoffs, beat them 60-something, 28, I believe. In 2022 they came back, and the refs blew a big call. I'm still upset about that, but I'm over it.
Too soon? No.
They blew a call. Oh man, I got to tell you. So, Casa Grande, they're trying to throw a screen. Down Coronado picks the screen off, runs upfield a few yards, then he fumbles the ball, jumps back on it. Our offense is running on the field. Their defense going off the field.
So they knew. Yeah, the offensive defense knew what happened.
The referee said incomplete pass. So then they take it down, they end up scoring, and there was another situation, our kick return, and I remember it because it was our motivation to take care of business the next few years against those guys. We get the ball, we're laying on the ball, there's no whistle blown. I'm like, why aren't they blowing the whistle? We're clearly on the ball. Casa Grande kid comes and gets it, and they blow the whistle, and they said that our guy laying on the ball didn't have possession. But I'm like, there was nobody else around, so then they end up scoring. But anyway, we ended up losing like 35-32 or 35-20, something like that. So that was motivation moving forward. With the last times that we played them since then, we were able to beat them.
So this was basically a situation where Casa Grande said, if we can't beat him, let's ask him to
let's
join us.
Let's see if we can get, So no, it worked out because even, the kids, they know the product that we put on the field. And the biggest thing is they said, we like the discipline out of those Buena kids. We know that that's what you instill in them, so they saw good things in us as an opponent. and then so now I was able to put in for that job, and they know what we're going to bring to the table because they've been seeing our kids do that, so that's nice. It's a testament of what we're doing down here, and it just shows. So I'm excited about that.
Does it excite you to know that Buena High School could be on the Casa Grande schedule more than likely?
We are.
Okay,
So
so it's already done.
Yeah, so it's a 2-year block. So so next year we'll be making the trip from Casa Grande back down here week 6 or 7, something like that, to play. So I'm going to be on the whole other side of everything. I told Mr. Colvin, I said, hey, don't treat me like a stepchild now. So we're going to be on the other sideline, visitors locker room, but it's going to be it's going to be an emotional night, because those guys we're playing against we're still, I've had some of those guys 3 years.
So we're 10 months away from this.
So
you're already thinking about it. You already know. You already know the emotions that you're going to feel
for sure.
10 months from literally right now.
Yeah. It's like a homecoming, just you're on the other side, but just knowing, my reason for going and not leaving on bad terms or anything, it's going to be a sweet homecoming, and we're excited. So yes. So that's one of the games I got to circle on the schedule, So I'll be excited for that game.
Well, it's all part of this amazing history. We're talking to former Buena High School head football coach. It's going to take a lot of getting used to say that. Joe Thomas here about his decision to move on to Casa Grande, this amazing opportunity, a man who's literally created history. Speaking of which, let's go back to your time coaching at Buena.
Okay.
Special shout out to Coach Jared Young for giving me some of these stats here. You are a coach who helped Buena make history. As I mentioned earlier in this interview, 4 playoff appearances in the last 6 seasons. But looking back at the very beginning, things didn't start as smoothly at Buena as you would have thought. But before you were at Buena, you were at your alma mater, Tombstone, before you came here. And that was a 3-year, 4-year journey there, 3 years at Tombstone?
I was there 8 years. I was 5 as an assistant, but 3 years as head coach. Yes, sir.
And you and I have a similar legacy between us. I played for Mike Hayhurst, and you got to coach with him. Did you play for him as well?
I did, yeah. He was my high school coach also, yep.
And so moving up into that position of assistant coach at Tombstone, at your alma mater, there's an old saying, oh, you can't go home, but that was your home, and you were there. And what was that time like during those 3 seasons at Tombstone as the head coach? And how did that prepare you to be the head coach of Buena?
So having Coach Hayhurst, of course, obviously I played for him, and our whole family graduated from Tombstone. How
many brothers and sisters?
There's 9 of us that graduated from there. Yeah, they went through there. I think one year they gave my dad a little key to the city type thing. I had all the kids that graduated through there, but that was when it was, Huachuca City and Tombstone, same district, so it wasn't the open enrollment like they have now. But shout out to Mike Hayhurst. Coach Mike Hayhurst gave me an opportunity. I was with him, his assistant for 5 years, and then I was able to take over 3 years. And he resigned just so I could take over and start getting some experience.
What does that say about him as a man?
Oh man,
and knowing the coaching legacy that he was handing on.
Yeah, just a great guy. And wanting wanting his products to succeed. I'm a product of him. From the high school. And that's coaches tell me all the time, hey coach, thanks for giving me an opportunity. A lot of my guys on staff right now, I got text messages, hey, thanks for giving me an opportunity to coach with you, and somebody gave me an opportunity, and I love giving opportunities to guys. There's guys that are on my staff that are now head coaches elsewhere. You know what I mean? So it's when being able to give these guys an opportunity because somebody gave me an opportunity is key. When I looked at most applications for head coaching jobs at other places, they wanted like at least 3 years of varsity head coaching experience, or some, wanted some varsity head coaching experience. And so it worked out that I was able to get that experience there. And then the season before I left Tombstone, there was 2 interim coaches at Buena, and then so that job opened up, and then I put in for it, and it was only a blessing that they gave me an opportunity. I'm coming from a 2A school. Right. I think my first year there we had won 5 games, and we won 4 games, and I think my last year there we had only won 2 games.
Wow.
So the record there wasn't magnificent
it's not like
at all.
Undefeated,
it's not like we're undefeated.
You're the hottest commodity on the market.
No, it wasn't. I just interviewed well. I remember Greg Deuce and Mr. Farmer. I'll give them shout outs forever because they gave me an opportunity. And then going from 2A to 5A that's a huge jump. you know. So being able to start that program off in 2015 and
let's talk about that. So your first 2 seasons of coaching at Buena High School, how many wins did those teams have?
0.
So, see, people forget
0.
that. I think people forget that.
Back to back.
To start off, correct me if I'm wrong. You started off actually technically at what, 0-22?
It started off technically at 0-21 because
0-21,
there was that was because they had lost their last game the prior, so it was basically that. So first year 2015 we lost every game, and not only that, we didn't score. We didn't put up points in any game. So we're getting shut out and we're losing.
Oh my gosh!
Right. Shout out to Mr. Greg Deuce.
That's
my guy. Every Monday we're in his office and people are saying, why do you still have this coach in here? Fire him, this, and this. But I told Mr. Deuce in the interview committee, I said, in 3 years, you'll see which direction this program's going. So basically I said, give me 3 years. I didn't come into anything that was great.
Right.
There were some traditions, there were some good athletes, but I didn't come into something that was great. And I said, hey, in 3 years, you'll see which direction this program's going in. So basically, if we're still losing in 3 years, you need to get rid of me. But I knew that wasn't going to happen because in order to build something, or in order to start something new, it's got to be a foundation. And I was able to come in and mix some things up. And our second year, we lost every game, but we scored it in every game. Right, I think one of our last games we lost like 35-45 or something like that. But now we're making progress. Now, kids still came to practice even though we were losing games. Kids were still motivated even though we were losing games. So somehow, even through roughest times, and that's why shout out to those kids that stuck with me. And Giovanni was part of that team in 2016, where we didn't win, but that was his freshman year. We were doing some things. So shout out to those kids for their resilience, and how do I get these kids motivated? You're looking at me as a player, we're losing games. We lost all last year. Now I got to put my faith in a coach that lost all last year and we're losing again all this year. And then 2016, we won 6, I think. And then turning things around, making, 2017, I'm sorry, 6-4. And, the guys in the region, I got coach of the year, for the region that year. And it was like, we didn't win the region, but we sat in a room and those guys said, you know what, coach, we saw what you started off with. We saw what you were doing the last 2 years. We'd love to have you on our schedule the last 2 years because we were beating you. And then this year you were beating us. So, they gave me some love there. In 2017, I was able to get region coach of the year. And that was just other coaches seeing the progression that we had. And now we're at a point where teams don't want to play Buena because of what we put on the field and the product. So I always appreciate those times because that's what helped us get to where we're at now. Somebody's like, well, why do you guys are up by 50. Why are you still coaching so hard? I said, because I remember when we were down by 50 and I was still coaching. So if we're losing every game, all those games back in those years, and I'm still passionate, I'm not missing practice, I'm still coaching those kids up, we're still putting in, we're walking the halls and kids are saying, oh, Buena, you guys are terrible. Like, there wasn't pride in the program because we were losing, and we had to hear it every day, and then some kid walking by and like, oh, the football team is terrible, and you just have to accept it at that point in time because we were terrible. But what they didn't understand, that we were growing. We were building, and then we blossomed, and now nobody's remembering those bad days unless you're with us. So
that's why I wanted to bring it up.
They come into it now, and it's like, oh, this just didn't happen overnight. So I don't forget the kids that were there with me. I love Giovanni; he was part of that. Mr. Deuce, Mr. Farmer, Coach Boutte that's been with me all these years. I don't forget where we were at during those times. Yeah. And if I didn't leave then, there ain't no reason I'm leaving if we,
right. Have amazing success in the last, 6 years of what you've done. Yeah. So how would you say specifically that adversity molded and shaped what would become the years, literally years of success? Yeah. And was there a certain season, you said by season 3, did you know, or was there a certain moment or a certain game where you said, things are beginning to click, and you knew that you were on to a system that was going to be creating a perennial winner in Sierra Vista? Well,
once year 3 is when I did know. You know what I mean? The year 1, year 1 to 2, just making that progress, and now we're competing, right? Now the kids are believing, because guess what? You might lose a game, but you know your running back had 4 touchdowns or something like that. So now the kids start believing, and it's like, okay, you know, we had last year, and it was this, and now this year's better. So then you start getting the kids to believe, and you start getting the kids to believe. You know, sky's the limit. And then Giovanni came in as a freshman. We were going to have him for 4 years. Some other guys that were around him, you know, Tim Jones, Caleb Brown. I mean, I could start, if I start naming too many, I'd miss some. But those guys coming into the program, and then we knew then it was going to be, we were going to be where we're at. And so, yeah, so it just, the kids kept coming back, and we start scoring. When you're scoring, you're going to be able to, and then we got Giovanni, and the system was in play, and it was all good from there.
Well, you mentioned specific players, and obviously success, not just for you.
Right.
The success for you has equated to success for some of these players. Thanks again to shout out to Coach Jared Young, who these numbers might be a little off, but there's definitely over 30 Buena football graduates from Buena High School who have gone on to the next level, including 3 Division I players, William Stendler, Tofia, and Giovanni, that you mentioned, as well as 4 kids with track scholarships as well, throwing, running. What does it mean to you to know that you have not just been a part of creating success for these young men in the high school era, but then helping them prepare for that next level?
Yeah, it's exciting. Again, it's their story, you know, and just being able to be part of that. Again, if I call Giovanni right now, hey man, love you, Proudy, he'd say, love you, Coach Proudy.
I could get him on the phone.
You know what I mean?
I have his number.
If you call him right now, he would. You know what I mean? And it's like, just those relationships that you build with these guys, you know, that are positive, you know, and just all the guys that came out of here. It's amazing to be part of their story. You know, Mike Hayhurst, Coach Hayhurst is part of my story, you know, in football. You know, Coach Jeff Skern is part of my story from Pima Community College. You know, track and field at Tombstone, Coach Bristow, you know, Coach Hardy up at NAU, you know. It just, you know, coaches can have such a great impact on young men's lives. And those guys, great impact. You know, there's actually, I did a thing one summer, and I did a tribute to all those guys, Hayhurst and Skern and the Bristow brothers and Coach Hardy and all my coaches that I had that you know, football and track, that had positive impacts on me, and the hard work that we had to put in. And so now to see the kids that have come through the program, because the last thing that any coach wants is, well, Coach Thomas, I didn't like him very much because we worked too hard, or, you know, but not just about them saying that, but you want to make sure that you've had a positive experience on. Yeah, he had us work hard, but we got results in, right? Because anything that you want is on the other side of hard work, regardless of what you do in life. You know, where you're at now is on the other, you know, there was hard work, you know what I mean? And you got to get through that. And then once you do, so all the kids, their success stories, I'm so proud of them, because now that's going to that's what's shaping and molding them into the young men that they're going to be. And there are some guys that came through Buena, like when they get done with their career, NFL, college, or whatever, they're going to make some great coaches. They're going to make some really great. If I could have, you know, if I could have the Will Stemlers and, you know, the Nash Moores and Giovanni Brobones and Andreas Bonillas, you know, it's just some, you know, the Jaden Thompson, just a lot of these guys, man. If I ever made it big, and I was coaching NFL or anything like that, I would reach into that pool of my former players just to give them an experience. Pay them $1 million and say, hey, I'll pay $1 million for a year. They'll be set, and they, you know what I mean. But just it's those relationships that you build with these guys that are positive, man. And I'm proud of all those guys, and I'm happy that I've been able to be a little part of what they're going to still do in life. And I never take credit for what these kids are doing, because obviously they got to drive and get with it. But just being able to be a little part of their life, and, you know, to be able to influence them in a positive way is amazing. So,
well, taking dozens of young athletes, young student athletes, and giving them that opportunity on the field and to learn under you, and then they can take all of those natural gifts and talents that were honed and shaped through the Buena High School football program, to that collegiate level. I'm a product of, I think Coach Hayhurst
Yeah,
prepared
that
me
guy.
to play
Yeah.
college football. I mean, so having that opportunity, I know it doesn't come to everybody, and
Right.
I was fortunate that it came to me. I know you were fortunate it came to you, and,
Right.
and we just try to do the best we can
it.
to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
One of those players we've mentioned several times, Giovanni Barbone,
Yeah.
just declared for for the NFL draft and UFL draft.
Yeah.
How amazing is that to think about?
That's amazing. That's a kid I've known since 3rd grade, went to school with his mother. I mean, I knew that he was going to be special when I saw him, long time ago. I said, man, this kid he stands out above, everybody. And then he came in, I was able to coach him. It was great, man. And their team's like, is that quarterback still come back? Yeah. His freshman year, he, fractured his pelvic bone and, in early season, he came back. And I think his first game back, he threw for 300 yards, So it's just like he's just that guy. I'm so happy for him. Like I said, we keep in touch all the time. I like seeing what he's doing. He's like, all right, coach, I'm watching. He's in college, and he's like, yeah, we're in this place, but I'll be watching your game tonight. Do this. I remember one time, I forget who we were playing. I can't remember the year. I looked at my phone at halftime, and Giovanni was obviously watching the game, so he was texting me some stuff throughout the game because he knows that. I mean, if he knows that offense, he and Nash, right? Because they both started as freshmen, just like Andreas and Jaden. So if I had to pick 4 guys, Giovanni, Nash, because they're the quarterbacks, Andreas, because he's been with me for 4 years at that position, and Jaden. They know the Buena offense. Like, they know my offense like the back of their hand. So Giovanni's texting me. He's like, do this, do that. I didn't check it at the time, but thanks, Giovanni.
You after the fact,
but he's like, I got to help coach. I know the plays. Like, I know what play's going to. So he's one, man. Wherever I'm at, I want him to go to the NFL, do his thing. He's one. I wish he could coach with me. I wish he can coach for me. Nash and Andreas and Jade and those guys. Maybe somewhere down the line, they'll come find me somewhere. And they can coach for me.
After their careers are over at that certain point, especially with Giovanni declaring for the NFL, it was a huge story this past week on Cool FM Live, and I've had the pleasure of talking to him.
Yeah.
As he was making moves throughout his collegiate career, and a long snapper. Talk about his shift from.
Oh yeah.
He was a stud superstar quarterback for Buena, but he ends up having to shift and has the humility to be able to shift positions to be a long snapper of all things.
He's one of those guys. When whatever it takes, if you had to see who's living whatever it takes, it's him. He's going to be whatever it takes. He stud quarterback. His senior year, and I told him, I said, hey, all right, if you don't grow in the offseason before your senior year, I'll let you play safety. And he was actually our stud free safety for us. I mean, really good. He was able to play both sides. Wasn't very. His height is what got him. He was a shorter guy at quarterback, so it was going to be a little hard for him. So he went from there to play, in the whole Holcomb League up there, and he was wasn't getting too much love at QB. Played a little bit of safety there. And then he messaged me one time. He's like, I'm long snapping. I said, okay, well, good, go with it. Long snap, and then of course that led to SMU and then Massachusetts. So it got him moving around a little bit.
And thanks to the NIL and the windows for transfer portals that players can do nowadays.
He was able to. What I'm most impressed is not only did he take advantage of the opportunity to play football and move around and stuff like that. He's an athlete. We know. But he was a student. He was able to. He was on track to graduate. Getting his bachelor's degree. And working on his master. I mean, so though it's like, so not only is he, moving around in the athletic world on the field, but he's getting his education in the process. So I played football with a lot of guys, ran track with a lot of guys that when we got done, they didn't have a degree. At junior college, they didn't have an associate's degree when we left. At NAU, they didn't have a bachelor's degree when they left. I'm like, we just ran 2 years together right now. We just played football this amount of years together, but you didn't have, there's that paper you didn't have afterwards, So I'm so proud of him that he was stuck on track with his grades and, his bachelor's degree, master's degree coming, whatever else. So it's just amazing, and resilience, right? Shout out to his mom, great lady. She never babied him. He didn't grow up having everything that he wanted, but he had a lot of love and support, grandparents, family, friends, stuff like that. And he's one of those guys that's just going to work hard, and he's going to challenge you. I remember one game when he was younger, I didn't yell at him, and he made a mistake, and I just walked away, and he followed me. And I'm thinking, so you're following me to get yelled at. not necessarily get yelled at, but you want to get coached up, right? So he's that guy. He's like, no, let me know what I did wrong. I want to have the opportunity to fix it. And then ever since then, even more, I was like, this guy's going to work his tail off for whatever he wants. And he's going to take the criticism, and he's going to take the disappointment at some time. You go from stud quarterback to now not being able to play. And no offense to anybody, but I saw some of the quarterbacks that were playing in front of him at some places, and I'm just like, man, I said, Giovanni could play that. You know what I mean? But that wasn't his role. That wasn't his time and stuff like that. So now his story, unique, stud quarterback, gone long snapper, All-American. I mean, and he'll tell it, and you guys know it, but that's just, I'm so proud. And I'm proud to have known him all these years, since he's in third grade. And if he makes it to the pros, hopefully he'll give me tickets to a game or something. I'll be proud, wear a jersey. His jersey's going to be hanging up at Buena, you know what I mean? So it's amazing. I'm proud of that guy. Love him.
You mentioned about the education side of things for Giovanni and how certain athletes that maybe we both played with that were not able to finish with that degree. What you've done during your coaching time at Buena, wearing your blue Oregon Ducks shirt. Actually, it's a green screen behind us. That's why it looks blue, but it is green. I promise you, in real life. Let's talk about you achieving your master's degree while you're coaching at Buena, teaching at Buena. Talk about that experience and why education. What did you do? Why education is so important to you?
Oh man, it's you think about, if I come and I work for you, and because I'm a family friend and I know you, and you give me this job and I'm in there 5 years, and then now a transfer comes, and I didn't really have any education or certificate back lined up with that. That could be hard. Of course, being educated, I mean, that's power right there. When you're educated and you know something that gives you power. But it goes back to, we graduated from Pima, and one of my buddies, we played football together, and he graduated. We got our associates. He put in for a job to work at a credit union. He put in to work at a credit union. It was him and a guy that worked there 5 years, and it was him. They gave him the job because he had that associate's degree over the guy that's been working in that position 5 years. So that brought something to my attention. I'm like, so it's not just about the years that you put in, but, the paper behind it, the credentials, you know what I mean? You could be driving the last 20 years with no driver's license, but then as soon as you get pulled over, you can't say, well, I've been driving 10 years without the license, but you didn't have that credential. Yeah. You know what I mean? Versus me, they can pull me over and I'm like, well, here's my license. Sorry, I know I didn't stop as much. They're like, okay, well, you got the credentials, keep on, but having those is nice. So COVID hit, and it was negative, it was the most negativity I think that a lot of us have experienced. And I said, I don't want to look back at 2020 and have anything negative. I don't want to think about, I know that some people got sick, some people had passed, sorry for those that lost somebody. But I didn't want to look back at it, and I had to get my mind focused on, something different than COVID. So I said, man, let me go back to school. Let me level up a little bit. Let me level up. Let me get out of this comfort zone and try to do something, bigger than what I'm doing now. So, I already have an associate's, bachelor's. Well, master's was the next thing. Now, mind you, some years before that, I said, I'm not ever going to get my master's degree. Why? So then it worked out. Where am I going to get it from now? U of A's right there. Well, I'm not a U of A fan. I live in Arizona, but I'm not, because this is where you're from. This is your degree. This is your name's on that. ASU, definitly not. Because
Sorry, Sheriff Mark. No offense, Sheriff Mark.
Yeah, no, Sheriff, I love you. Great, yeah. But and NAU, even though I got, I wanted to be proud of where I got that master's degree from. So University of Oregon. I didn't know that was going to be the topic, but I just happened to be wearing my blue-green shirt today. So University of Oregon, and it worked out good because there was a lot of online classes, right? So everybody wasn't in person. So when we first started off, 45 credit program, 2 years, a year and a half, whatever it was going to take, whenever you get the 45 credit done. And there was a couple classes that I might have had gone to U of A and then had it transfer up, up there. But it worked out that, when kids weren't going to go back in the classroom, I was able to take all my classes online through the University of Oregon. 3 hours Zoom meetings, Zoom classes. Wow. I had some that were just online and we didn't have to meet. But 3 nights out of the week, I was on Zoom sessions, and we were doing our stuff. I was coaching, and then Oregon and Arizona, there was a time change, so I was able to
Yeah, we go
sometimes
on Mountain and they stay on Pacific.
sometimes
or vice
I
versa.
would at the end of practice I had to go jump on the Zoom session and stuff like that too, but it worked out. It was tough, but we were able to get it done and handle that. So in 2022, I got my master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Oregon. So I'm alumni now.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Didn't have to step on campus.
But again, that's the
I was there.
opportunity
Yeah.
that's been created.
Yes.
That so many of
Yeah.
us, don't take advantage of. But you
Correct.
did. How does you think that focus on education translates to the young men you've coached over the
Yeah,
years?
well, I tell my kids, I said, I'm talking to my son, and he has straight A's, and it's like, you can't come talk to me like, I got this master's degree. Not that I'm better than you, but I think I finished with a 3.7 or something like that in that one class. I got a C, and I'm not happy about. But
Here's the refs. The refs made a mistake.
on that class, right? That guy. But when I talk to my kids, it's like, you're way smarter than me. Jaden, he's way smarter than I know it. Layla, they're way smarter than me. It's like, guys, so you can do it if you put your mind to it. So don't come to me talking about your high school English teacher is tough or your high school math class is tough. I just finished a master's degree. You can do it. So and being able to show them, like, they flew out, my parents and my kids flew out, and they went to the ceremony in Eugene that summer. And for them being able to see that and kind of lead the way, and they're like, man, all right, well, Dad's got his master's. I don't expect them to get their master's. I expect them to achieve the highest level of education in which they want to, right? And of course, everybody should at least be trying to go for their high school, diploma. But if you want to go to college, get something out, get a degree, get a bachelor's, get something out of it. So just kind of, leading the way, not like, all right, hey guys, here's what I want you to do, but I've never done it. So being able to show them and kind of be that leader for them, and trying to be that example the best way that I can, and it's helped me be better too. It's like, hey, I during that whole time, it's like, guys, what's your grades like? Make sure you focus on your classes. During that time I'm getting my master, I'm talking to my high school players about that. Stay eligible, let's stay focused. In me telling them that, I'm telling it to myself too. All right, Thomas. Hey, stay. That class that you don't want to go to, right? It's 8:30 now. It's you've been sitting in there since this time, and it's like, come on, stay focused. Got to be. And it wasn't necessarily got to be eligible to play, but you got to be on track to graduate and get this master's degree that's cost you a lot of money.
Well, again, but that old saying, the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary.
Yeah.
And you put in tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
As you were, living life, as so many people do. By the way, this is, but it is amazing to show you leading the way through that. As we begin to wind this down, thinking of your time at Buena, we're talking with Coach Joe Thomas here, who has resigned from the head coaching position on the football team at Buena High School to take a position with Casa Grande up I-10. I know that in my mind there are certain moments that I think not define your career, your legacy as the coach at Buena, but I think the biggest moment to me was doing something that had not been done in 40 years, and that was Buena winning a playoff game, hosting a playoff game, and winning a playoff game. Off the top of your head, is there like a Mount Rushmore of moments that you've had coaching at Buena that for the rest of your life, you will look back and say, man, I remember these small handful of moments. What would those be off the top of your head, like your Mount Rushmore moments?
So, I could say there was 5. The one of them would be for me, 4 would just be for the kids. Looking back, in that first year that we had a winning season in 2017, that would be like that would be number 1 for me. And then, because looking at where we came from, you know what I mean? Looking at where we started and where we're at, for the kids, I know it was amazing, and they bought in. So that would be my first one. And then of course having the the winning season that we did in 2019, being able to make the playoffs for the first time, that was another one. Last year with Nash and all those guys that Andres, those good guys, Elias, those good guys we had, could name everybody. Sorry if I missed anybody. Being able to win the first round of playoffs, great regular season, win host the first playoff game, number 3 in the state, then win that first one, make history. That, and then the number 4, would be just this past season because it was my last. Buena is left in better hands than when I got it. So when I can say when I was my first season there, 0-10, my last season there, 7-4, made the playoffs, ranked in the state. There was a lot that happened in between there. People don't see that. The hard times, the good times, the hard times, the build-ups, those things. But those would be, if I had to think about those years, it would be when we got to the year 3 of where we needed. So, the 17, 19 making the playoffs, 24, last year, being able to do what we had to do, 23, and then of course my last season here, I walked off the field that last game, and every year you reflect and you think about it and, it's like, man, that could have been my last game here, and it was. And it's hard, you got to keep your emotions in check, when I told the players it was tough, and it's hard to leave something that you've been a part of, and I don't want to say that I've created, right, because I came in to be a part of Buena High School football, but my tenure here has been something different than it has been.
I'll say you created. I'll say you created. I know your players would too.
I talked to Coach Darius Kelly, and he's a Buena alum and stuff like that, and he had some good man. He just basically gave me some love because he was a player there. So when people that were at Buena come up to me and say, man, you're one of the best coaches that they've had, and when it's going up against Truman Williamson, who's coached all those years, and the things that he's done, and I'm number 2, and the whole I'll take it
in the same breath. You're literally in the same breath as Truman Williamson,
and that's amazing, and even just to, some might think, well, they didn't win a lot of games, but when you think about it, and we started off, 0 and we had those bad 0-21, and then once we got those years done, then the record's 54-33 or something like that. Right. Since we were at our lowest, then we start progressing. So it's nice, leaving things better than it was, when you got there. And I think that we did that, and I hope that tradition continues. The kids know the expectations there. Just hoping that next coach comes in, continues those traditions. He doesn't need to be a Joe Thomas. But the tradition of winning is back at Buena High School, and I expect it to be there. Next year, I want them to win every game besides the game where Casa Grande comes down and plays them. Then I don't want them to win that game, But on the back of my mind, it's going to be. I'm going to be happy with every way that win falls. Buena gets the win, it's like, man, those guys, those are my guys.
They will have earned it for sure.
Casa Grande wins, it's like, well, I'm there now, so get them kind of going. But it's going to be fun. But it's the time hasn't come to leave yet, right? Yeah. Say, if I was here next year again, we'd be looking forward to track and stuff like that. So it wouldn't, we wouldn't be in football mode till spring ball. But there's still some things like when I'm not out there for spring ball after I've been there for 11, but this is even when I was at Tombstone before I got the Buena job. I finished out my time at Tombstone. I was over at Tombstone teaching and stuff, coaching track, and then I came to Buena for spring ball. Now it's just I got to figure out the schedule for next year on working with the kids up there and still being here. Still going to coach track faithfully and fully, not, giving up any time there. So it's just getting that schedule figured out, getting a coaching staff together. So any of my college buddies, if anybody's up that way, if you looking for a job, let me know.
Hey, that's awesome. Will you have any input on who the next head coach at Buena High School will be?
No, and of course I've thrown out, some people that have been there, who I think could be good, but I know that Mr. Colvin, that he understands there's a process, and, so we open it up, take some applicants, they got to put their name in and, get their interviews done, but I believe that since he, he knows the direction, he knows where the program was at, he knows the direction the program's going, he knows where it's at right now. So I think that he'll get a good, candidate in there.
Now let's talk about plans with Casa Grande. When you are coming into a situation where you're starting a new job, starting new as a head coach, do you refine the system you have to match the athletes that are there already in their system, or do you just take your system and say the athletes will adjust to this? How do you have plans on that?
Yeah, so I mean, you could change your defense every year, right? Because I mean, your defense basically you want to be able, you're going to have to adjust to whatever they're running offensively. Since I am going to be coming in as the offensive coordinator, I think I have the buy-in with these kids because if we go back to when we played them the first of 3 times in the last couple of years, we put 66 on them. Then we put 66 on them again. Then last year we put 49 on. So I don't think I'm going to have any issue with the buy-in from what the offense can do when it's time to go forward. So since I'm going to call that offense, and it's a simple offense. We do put up a lot of points. We're not a lot of eye candy, but it is a simple offense to learn. So I'm going to instill that, and we'll start working on that. I already got some things in the works, so we're going to instill that offense. Defense, whoever I decide my defense coordinator, I have a candidate in mind right now, so I'm just waiting for him to tell me yes, and I'm going to let him take that baby and run with it. But offensively, we're going to implement our system. But the big thing is, I met with the kids up there on Friday, and we talked about accountability, commitment, teamwork. We talked about the discipline. We talked about the structure. They got some good athletes up there. They do. There was just some things that were lacking in different, to kind of keep them, over that hump. With Coach Jake Barr was there, and we actually played them during that year. In 2021-22 school year, they were 4A state champions. So then they end up moving up to 5A after that. They've done well since. They didn't make the playoffs last year. 5-5. There's some games that they should have won. Some injuries, but there's some things that they got some good kids up there. So we're excited, but we're going to start off with the foundation. They weren't. They're not coming off an 0-10 season or anything like that. But just starting off with the accountability, commitment, teamwork. The discipline, the structure, and people can say what they want, but kids want structure. Kids want discipline. They just don't want it to come out of the blue. If I'm telling you, hey, here's what you got to do, here's this, and they just want to be aware of it. They want to know, where's the structure coming from? Where's the because when you bring structure and discipline, that's consistency and learning. And you can bring that in, and they already know, and they know what to expect, and then you end up getting good results. Then they're going to be okay with that. So if you know how to do it, you can have discipline, and there be positive effects. Buena football program, the track program, Bristow, he's the head track coach, and he's all about discipline. He was my coach in high school, and I'm all about discipline, and we got state champs coming, you know what I mean? So, and then the structure, got to have some structure because it shows that you care. Just having these questions, that's structure, shows that you care. Hey, I want to highlight the good stuff, not, who was the water boy or who was the team manager or back, having that structure, and then the discipline of us being respectful towards each other. When you're talking, I'm not. When I'm talking, you know what I mean? Just being able to, so those things, and those are things that are not just football, track related, any sport related. Those are life skills that you're going to carry, and I think 10 years from now, even if we don't see each other in the next 10 years, which we will, I think we could come back here and have that same thing because the structure was good, the discipline was good. So, yeah.
If you could sum up your time at Buena High School, the 11 years, if you could sum that up in either a word or a phrase or a sentence, I mean, again, looking at your legacy, the 11 years, that's a lifetime. It feels like a lifetime in coaching. That's a lifetime, especially in high school football. That's a lifetime of coaching. Is there a word or phrase that just comes to mind that when you think of this time, the 11 years at Buena High School?
Man, thankful, blessed. Those would be thankful that I've been able to be a part of something bigger than myself, blessed that I've been able to impact the lives of these kids in a positive way, thankful for the true supporters out there that have been, that have been with me, during the hard times. When you're not winning, it's everybody, you're the worst coach out there, and when you're winning, you're the best coach out there. Funny story, and I can't mention the name because we went to so in 2017 we went to a place with the team, and I was wearing Buena football, and a lady said, "Are you the new coach at Buena?" And I said, "Yeah." And, we had a great season that year. Not a good one. We won 6. And she's like, oh, well, it's nice to meet you. She's like, yeah, that last coach they had the last couple of years, he was terrible. They didn't win a game for 2 years. And then so I'm glad they got rid of him and brought you in. And then now you guys are winning. So bittersweet moment, right? At first I was like, I'm that guy. I'm the guy that was losing 2 years ago, and we're winning now. But it was sweet because at that point in time, the insult or, the whatever, she was right because we weren't winning, right? She just didn't know that I was that guy that changed it. She felt like they brought in somebody else and he changed it. It's hard to kind of really change something when you haven't changed something like that before or you weren't in it. But the sweet part about it was, you know what? In just that one sentence, ma'am, you acknowledged the fact that the program was not good, and you also acknowledged the fact that the program's moving in a better direction. You just don't know that I'm the same guy. So I looked at her and she's like, yeah, I'm glad they got a new guy in. So I was like, oh man, the lady. And of course I wasn't mad at her, because when you're not winning, if I lost every game this past year, it wouldn't be much of a debate if I said, I'm a good coach. And you're like, well, you didn't win a game this year. So then, who's going to argue? I guess I wouldn't say anything else. Being a good coach is not based on winning and losing. You would like that to be your end result, but when you can teach your kids, when they can grow, when they can get better, when they can come back and say, Coach, thank you for this life lesson that you were taught, which is better than wins. That's good. But that was a funny story that's going to stick with me with that lady, because she was sure awesome. that I wasn't that guy, and it wasn't always easy, and it's like to be in that position and to not be successful, but understand the process and trust the process. Coach Estrada, a good friend of mine, he was a track coach and he coached football at Thatcher. He coached trust the process. And then he would always tell me that every week, trust the process, 20 straight games losing, coach, trust the process. And then all the supporters that we have, it's great. I love them. I appreciate them. And I'm going to miss it. It's going to be, I'll have my own time, alone time to be emotional. Yeah. Right now, just, finishing things out strong and excited, and just the love that I've gotten, just the support, and people, hey, I appreciate what you've done. I was in the store the other day, and well, I'm still going to be at football games because you turned me into a football mom, and thanks for all you did and stuff like that. Those versus anything that's negative, all those positive outweighs it. So it is just a joy, and an uplifting. If you talk to somebody that was on the team, we were losing, they could probably say anything, we weren't good, this, that, or the other, but when you see where we're at now, what the team has came around to, and, it's nice to be able to end on a good note, winning season, playoffs, got some good kids, we have I think Coach Krause does our Twitter and stuff for us, but I think he said we're up to 110 kids, we have 12 kids that have like a total like 110, 112 scholarship offers. So, NAIA, JUCO, D2, D3 schools, the opportunity to go, so they have those. So there are opportunities out there, for these kids to go do that. There was times where nobody was coming to talk to Buena because we weren't producing anything. And mind you, we still had good kids on the team, but we just weren't winning. We didn't attract their attention. In these past years, it's like I don't even have numbers saved in here, but there's so many coaches and they're calling about our kids and they're asking about our kids because, that's a good product that they put on the field. Parents, thank you for allowing me to coach your kids all these years and be a part of their lives. And again, I just can't thank the supporters enough because those are the ones that help build you up when others are trying to tear you down, my intent is, hey, Giovanni Bourbon, come to Buena football. We want you to have a terrible season. It's never that. You want these kids to have a great season, be successful. We've had many kids come through here, get all region recognition, state recognition, Ed Doherty recognition. You got kids in high school right now. Nash, if you're in college now, Nash, if you're listening, of course, they want to get you on and talk to you. Giovanni, any of our guys that are, a year out, they want to get you guys on and be able to talk to you guys about some of the good things that you're doing. So.
Well, and that is what we look forward to doing on the Next Level Athletes.
Yeah.
That's the new segment that we've started here, talking to those former Cochise County High School students that have made it to that next level.
Oh, yeah.
And all the That way they can give love back to the coaches and the staffs and the family and the supporters who helped them get to that next level, just like you did today.
Yeah.
Talking about all those people who were with you during the lean years of Buena, before Buena, Tombstone, going into the lean years of Buena, and then making that culture shift, the culture change. I am thankful for you. I'm thankful for our friendship.
Oh yeah.
And first of all, for taking the time to talk to me today. Second of all, for all those last minute texts that I send you saying, hey, is it okay if we stop by today at 3 o'clock to do our Buena pregame? And and for the way that you always took that seriously, and I did my best to take it seriously as well, talking about every single week, every single game, and tracking that for the last several years. You've always taken the time to do that with me, and I can't thank you enough for that. Can't thank you enough for your friendship through the years, and so excited for your future. He is the history-making, record-breaking coach, former coach of Buena High School. It's going to take a long time for me to get used to saying that, but he is the man who has taken this Buena team, these young men who will be future coaches, the young men who will be future, some of them possible professional athletes, definitely innumerable collegiate athletes, and high school standouts, award winners, and most of all, developing character through the game of football, instilling that in these young men, which is what Coach Joe Thomas has done, what he will continue to do at Casa Grande, and all the excitement. And again, you're not going anywhere yet.
Right.
You packed up the house.
No.
The house isn't packed up. He's sticking through to the end of the semester, making sure that he's there for Jaden's graduation and all the fun stuff that's there that you have to look forward to. And I'm just, again, so thankful for your friendship and thankful for your time today, and wish you the merriest of Christmases and happy holidays. Leave him some love in the live chat. Coach Joe Thomas, you'll see him around. He'll still be around. He's not going anywhere just yet. But in the meantime, please leave him some love in the live chat. Wish him luck as he goes to Casa Grande, except for the game that they play Buena right here. I wonder who's going to give me all my cool Buena shirts. I've got so many Buena shirts from you over the last decade. I have my annual collection. I need to make sure whoever the new coach, when you get hired, new coach, whoever you may be, I want my shirts. I'm Buena alum. I played college football out of Buena High School. I deserve to have my annual shirts. Walking around with the stuff on the back here, with the messages on the back. And I mean, this is something that, again, that you've been gracious enough to give to me over the years, and giving me your time today, the Sunday before Christmas. Thank you, Coach, for everything you've done. Make sure you thank Coach Joe Thomas. This has been a very special episode of Coach's Corner. If you're just joining us, got to rewind back to the very beginning as we talk about the change, why now, the legacy, the building of this culture at Buena High School, how it all happened, and then what that future is for head coach Joe Thomas as he heads to... go ahead, please, by all means.
Happy holidays to everybody. Be safe. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Love you all. Love you all. That's if you think I don't love you, I love you. I gotta love everybody. Regardless. And me making this trip is not because I don't love anybody or I don't like somebody, or it wasn't about the program or anything like that. The community's been great. The program has been great. The administration has been great. The kids have been great, and that's why it's hard to make this trip. Right? It could be easy, right, to make certain decisions when things aren't going well. But it's even harder when things are going well, because I'm leaving something great. I'm leaving some really great people here, and it's tough. And that's the hardest part about this move, is I'm leaving great people, great support, great players, I'm leaving a lot of great people down here in Sierra Vista. Church is down here, parents are down here, but I love you all, and I thank you so much for everything.
Cochise County is your home.
And
this will always be home.
It is.
And we are always home. And this is it. We love you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for watching this very special episode of Coach's Corner, brought to you by the Morse Automotive Group, Sierra Vista, and Cochise County, backed by Morse. He is head coach Joe Thomas, and we wish him all the best as he moves on, takes this next chapter after the semester ends, heading up to Casa Grande, taking his talents to Casa Grande, and waiting to see what happens up there with the Cougars. And maybe I'll get a Cougar shirt. If that's, we'll do Coach's Corner. I'll just drive up to Casa Grande, and we'll do Coach's Corner with you, the Casa Grande pregame. Do that out on Cool FM. No, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do? But I know we'll see you. I love you. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sharing this around and showing everybody the amazing, humble, gifted, and such wonderfully talented people that we have here in Cochise County who are building that next generation of athletes. And it starts and ends with this man right here, Joe Thomas, cream of the crop. And we're glad that you took the time to do it today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. Have a great day, everybody. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We'll check in with you again later on. Coach.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Love you too, man.